welcome to the show. It's what is this show? It's the it's the BIV and Pauly G show.
Hey, everybody.
I'm the notorious BIV, and this is my boy Pauly G.
How's it going, everybody?
That's what it is. It's been a while, hasn't it?
It has.
Welcome back. So, all right. So here's the thing. Like, you're a school teacher, right?
Right.
And sometimes I'm like sometimes I want to like discuss adult topics, but then I'm like, does that, if you're on YouTube discussing adult topics, is that going to be like, and like your kids see it or something?
Oh,
you know
I see.
what I mean? I'm just like, I don't know, whatever. I don't know. Anyway, we'll try this though. Okay, so
I don't think any of my students watch this show.
So that's good. Hopefully that's the case. I don't want your like principal to call you in one day and be like, excuse me, but anyway.
I guess if it's really bad, I'll tell you. And
yeah, well, we could cut it out.
Yeah.
Okay, so so I'm getting it on with my woman one day, and she's like, grab a condom, and I'm like, okay. So I go into my drawer next to my bed, and I look in there, and this is what I find. Okay, see this? Now this is not a paid sponsorship, by the way. So just anyway. So this is what I see, and there are all these like little tinfoil bits in there, and I'm like, wait, what's going on? Oh, dude, a mouse friggin' ate my condom. That's what this is. So like I have this empty condom thing. It's been eaten out, and I'm like,
that's insane.
That's weird. I heard the mouse over there and stuff. I didn't realize it was like getting in my drawer. So if a mouse friggin' ate my condom. That's the story. And it's not even like it's just a regular condom. It's not like it's
cheese
flavored or something, right? Which I think is weird anyway. What's the point of a flavored condom? I mean, anyway, I don't even know. I don't know why there are flavored condoms.
I didn't know there were. I was just joking.
Well, I think there are flavored condoms. Well, I know there are flavored condoms, and I think there are like even edible condoms. And I don't even know why you would want that even, right? I mean, like, okay, well, I mean, anyway, we could go into that further. Maybe we will on another time, but that's enough adult stuff for now. A mouse ate my condom. But, so we were talking about, so I'll give you this scenario, okay? There's this girl I know. I knew back, I don't know, a few, 20 years ago or so. And she was like, so when I first met her, like in 6th grade, her claim to fame was like I beat up boys, right? That was like she's like pretty big and she's very masculine.
Did I know her?
Maybe.
Because we went to 6th grade together.
Oh, well.
Didn't we?
Well, I moved halfway through 6th grade, so this was at my new school.
Oh, okay.
This is at my new school.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, and she was my age. And so she, she's kind of masculine and kind of like tomboy, whatever. So, and I remember this one, but she's like heterosexual. She's into dudes. And I remember this one time she's like, she was like, why are guys always into looks and stuff? Why is it all about that? Why can't I get a guy, kind of a thing, right?
Way back in 6th grade?
No, later on.
Okay, gotcha.
No, when we were older.
Gotcha.
And so my question is, I've wondered about this. Like, okay, so could she like change and like put on some makeup and be like more girly, like, you know what I mean? Or is that just like she's inherently that way and like, right?
This is what I would say from my experience with people, especially girls in the same situation where it's like I'm living my life, I'm being true to myself, and I'm not having any luck with guys. Then they have to choose like, okay, well, so am I going to change so that I can get a guy, and because that's more important, or am I going to continue to do what I'm doing because it's more important for me to be, true to myself, or or whatever.
Okay.
But like you see these shows on TV where it's like, oh, here's a person, this is what they wear. They don't really care about clothing or whatever, and they just are doing what they're doing. And so they're like, oh, well, we're gonna like do a makeover and like get you wearing nicer clothes and make you look more attractive. And then the person's happier afterwards. So maybe it's not necessarily being true to yourself. It's more just about you're not putting any effort into this part of your life, and so it's making it so you're not really attractive to the to people. And so then it's like, oh, well, if you would do this, that, and the other, you'll be happier and you'll also be more attractive to other people too,
Yeah. I guess, I mean, I guess that's the question. Like, are you betraying, are you not being your true self if you're like, cause like there's the idea of like being your best self, right?
Right.
Like,
but that could be being your best self. Be like, if you don't shower and you don't,
okay.
you know what I mean? You don't comb your hair, like maybe you're being your best self by doing those things, and then you're going to feel better about yourself, and you're going to be more attractive to others as well. I think it's different if you're talking about, because what I think of is I think of ladies I know who they are trying to stay true to their religion, and they're not having any luck finding a guy within their religion, and so they lower their standards, and then they are willing to do things that they before didn't feel good about doing, and now, oh well, now as long as I'll just lower my standards and be willing to do these things, well, now I can get a boyfriend, or I can have guys.
Right.
To me, that's very different though from just being willing to like put on makeup and maybe wear nicer clothes or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I just wonder, like, is it possible, right? I mean, like going back to our discussion last time,
right?
We were talking about like you and I were kind of both into the same nerdy things or whatever, but like I didn't want to be seen as a nerd,
right?
And I like did things differently so that I wouldn't be seen that way,
right?
However, was that just maybe that's who I am, right? Maybe that's like, you know what I mean? And maybe, so like,
I don't think I necessarily wanted to be seen as a nerd either.
But it wasn't, but you had different priorities.
Yeah.
Right?
I guess.
I mean, like,
I still tried to, I tried to dress nice and tried
sure.
to, like I paid attention to my appearance and wanted to look nice. I didn't want to just like, sometimes you think of nerd and you think of like a kid who wears ridiculous clothes and just doesn't care about their grooming or whatever,
Right. So, but like, like I remember in 8th grade, I was like, I've got to have like an Izod shirt, right? With a little alligator on it.
Right.
Like that was the cool thing.
Right.
And or like Levi's 501 jeans. Those had, you had to have Levi's 501 jeans.
Totally.
It couldn't just be like any jeans or whatever, right?
Right.
So like, did you like ever like care about that, or?
I did, but it was a matter of whether my parents could afford it or not. And I remember somebody giving me a hard time in junior high for not having 501 jeans, So
yeah,
I tried to wear the nicest clothes I could, but my with 7 kids in my family, my dad being a teacher, we didn't have a lot of money to just like buy nice new clothes all the time. Right. I remember being happy when Converse skate grips were popular because they were like $20 shoes, and I was like, nice. This is something I can afford, and they're popular.
Yeah. So I mean, I think you can change yourself to some degree, you know, but
Mhm.
like part of it is sort of inherently kind of part of you. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, so I mean, so the girl in my example, I'm like, okay, she could. I mean, maybe she couldn't be less masculine or whatever, right? Like that's just how she is. But
I think you need to decide. I think that the individual has to decide how much of it is not being true to themselves, and how much of it is something that is not really that important to them, but it would make it so that, I mean, if the goal is, you know, if you're not happy because you're having a hard time finding somebody to be in a relationship with, you know, then you have to decide how much is not important that would actually help me to be in a relationship with someone, and how much of it is, well, if I sacrifice this and that just to be in a relationship, and now I'm miserable because I'm not being myself, you know.
yeah, okay. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's an interesting question to me. Cuz I don't, you know, cuz I don't I think it's easy to say I think it's easy to say a lot of time, and maybe we talked about this last time, but I think it's easy to say, "Oh, well, um, you know, I don't have to change, like, you know, I'm not going to change who I am or whatever." But I think I think that can, like, you shouldn't change who you are. Like, you should be yourself for sure. But at the same time, like, you shouldn't use that as an excuse to, like, not improve yourself,
I agree.
right?
I agree.
Like,
Yeah, like you're being a jerk, and then someone's like, "Hey, you know, like when you do this, it causes this problem or whatever," and you're like, "Oh, well, that's just me. That's just the way I am." Like that's a cop
right.
out.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
That's one of the things that I've been thinking a lot about lately is fixed. Uh, what do you call it? Uh, Fixed mindset and growth mindset. Are you familiar with that?
Sounds familiar.
So it's
Enlighten us, Pauly G.
it's really big in education because a fixed mindset is, well, that's just the way I am. I'm good at some things. I'm not good at some
Oh,
things,
right.
and there's not much I can do about it. Oh, I think maybe we talked about this last time after we turned the video off, huh?
Yeah, maybe.
Anyway, but a growth mindset is, I can do anything if I apply myself. I can do hard things. It just takes time and it takes practice, and I have to really apply myself. And if I do, then I can do these things that maybe don't come naturally to me. Maybe it doesn't. It's not easy, but I can do them. You know.
Okay.
So a fixed mindset is what you're talking about, where it's like, oh well, that's just who I am. You know. And so a growth mindset is, well, if I want to be better, if I want to be good at something, then I just have to do what it takes to do that, you know? No one's born like being an astronaut. Like you have to work super hard to become that person, right? No one's born with a PhD. Like if you want to do those things, you just have to really work hard to do them. So as a Spanish teacher, I have kids who, some of them maybe it comes easier to them, and some other kids maybe it's not, it doesn't come as easy to them. But I feel like anybody can do it if they'll apply themselves. It might be harder for some than for others, you know, but
yeah. Well, I know, I think I think people are a combination of those things. Like, I know, I always say, well, I'm not that good at math, right?
Right.
For example. But I could be good at math if I applied myself. But it's like, how important is it to you?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I'm not really that interested in math, and you know, I don't really want a job in math, and it's like, so I'm not going to put forward all that effort to like learn it.
Right. It's just a matter of saying, well, if I really cared and I really wanted to, I could do that, as opposed to putting self limitations on yourself and just saying like, oh, I can't do that because I'm not good at it, you know?
Yeah. So I mean, I guess that's the thing. It's like, you know, what are your priorities, right? Like if that, so if that girl really did want to get a guy, but she's just not willing to like do certain things, or like, you know, it's not like, obviously getting a guy isn't as important to her, right?
Right.
I mean, like, that's not a priority if she's like, well, I want a guy, but like I'm not gonna like,
if like her clothing style and her hairstyle and, you know, things like that are super important to her identity, and she feels like in order to be more attractive to guys she has to completely change that, then that would be different from, you know, I don't really care about how I dress and I don't really care about my hair, and so then you're unattractive because of those things.
mm-hmm.
And then you're like, oh well, if you know, here's some things you could do to make you more attractive, and then you're like, oh, I actually feel better about myself because I'm doing these things. We should probably get a lady's opinion on this. Maybe this is a an unbalanced conversation about this whole
probably.
thing.
But and some guys are like into like a tomboy or whatever, right? And so maybe it's just a
matter of finding the right person.
Matter of like, oh, she needs to find someone who's into that,
right,
or whatever, right? I don't know.
Well, and you could say, I don't. So that it's not necessarily like telling girls that they need to wear makeup or whatever. You could say the same thing about guys. A guy could just not care about his appearance,
mm-hmm.
and if it's not important to him, then he could, you know, do a few things to care more about it, to show more interest, and then be more attractive. Whether no matter what gender you are, I think it could be the same. I think it could be the same thing. I
mean, I'm not like, I've never been into like jogging or working out, right? Like yeah, I'd like to have a big muscly bod or whatever, but it's not important enough to me to like do that.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So, yeah. So I mean that's, but I guess the moral of the story here though is like, I think we both agree that you should not
compromise.
Well, you shouldn't use that's just me as an excuse not to like improve yourself, right?
I agree.
And you shouldn't compromise. I mean, although you can, here's the thing, like we can compromise sometimes, and that's okay. Sometimes
in a marriage,
well, yeah,
you have to make compromises or you're going to get divorced, right?
But even before that, I was looking for like a supermodel, right, to marry. And when I met my wife, like she wasn't all those things, right, necessarily. But God told me to marry her, and so I did. And after I married her, it was like, oh, why was I so hung up on
looks?
Yeah, looks. Like she's amazing and she's woman shaped, and that's awesome, right? Like, and I realized that after I was married, but similarly, like her sister, she like shared this big list of like things that she wants in her guy, you know, and I was just like, you're ridiculous, like, you know, like it's good to have standards and like, you know, this is what I want, but at the same time it's like, you know, no one's gonna like have every single one of those things necessarily, right? I don't know. So I think you can be a little, I think people can be a little unrealistic sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And in that case, you know, you do need to compromise at some point and be like, okay, maybe my expectations are out of whack.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Anyway, we're about out of time. Do you have anything else to add to our discussion today?
Can I ask a whole new question or okay, so here's something I've been thinking about.
Okay.
You know how people are like, oh, I kind of like have this, like I like redheads, or like I kind of like this kind of like that's like my type of person that I'm attracted to. So here's an idea I had. What if, uh, like in heaven, this was the person you were in love with, and so now when you come, then when you're here on Earth, that's your type because you kind of are in love with that person, and so then you're looking for that person. You know what I'm saying? So it's like it's a tall blonde lady that you're in love with, so that's kind of like your type that you're attracted to, you know?
Okay. I got it. That's our next topic. Yeah, for sure. That's our next topic. Okay. Yeah, we're going for it. Next time. Good topic, Pauly G.
Thanks, man.
So, yeah, we'll come back next time and talk about that. And until then, thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. We'll see you in the next video.
Don't limit yourself. Have a growth mindset.